Like I mentioned in the introductory video, critical thinking is a creative process. This step, identifying alternative explanations for the evidence, is where we start to get creative. In this step, our job is to try to think of some explanation, aside from the claim made, for why the evidence would exist. This is the most enjoyable part of the process, but it can also be the most difficult. The key to developing an alternative explanation is to believe the relationship between the variables, but to think up a different claim for why the relationship exists. This is really important. You must accept that there is a reliable relationship as described in the evidence. And you must not accept the author's claim about how that relationship works. This means that we buy the evidence they're presenting, but not the claim they're making. Let's think about that first point, accepting the relationship between the variables as a fact, that the authors have discovered a real relationship. Do not dispute or dismiss the evidence. Do not suggest that this could be just a coincidence. Those two answers, the evidence is wrong and it was a coincidence, do not show evidence of critical thinking, which means you won't get any points for putting them on your worksheets or the tests. So now that we're assuming the relationship is true, it's time to think of a different explanation for that relationship. For this step, you can either name one specific other variable that could account for the relationship, called a third variable explanation, or suggest that the relationship is reversed. Let's consider where you might find a third variable, and then we will go over what makes a good third variable. The first place to look for a third variable is to ask, were the groups the same to begin with? Can you think of a specific way that the groups might have been different before they encountered the predictor variable? For instance, if the participants chose which level of the variable they experienced, then they might make all sorts of other choices that would provide possible alternate explanations. We call this the self-selection bias. Let's imagine a new product that claims to increase your sense of taste. We'll call it the Taste-O-Matic. The manufacturer presents evidence that people who use the Taste-O-Matic report an increase in their sense of taste. They are claiming that it is their product that causes this increased sensation. Let's consider, though, that the groups were not the same to begin with. The people who used this product chose to buy it and chose to report back to the manufacturer about how wonderful it was. That makes them quite different from the general population. We should stop and think about specific ways that they are different from everyone else. An effective third variable explanation in this case might be that people who want to improve their sense of taste choose to buy the product. People who want to improve their sense of taste might also be doing a host of other things to improve their sense of taste. People who want to improve their sense of taste then report that they had an improved sense of taste. The third variable that we have found is desire to improve your sense of taste. The people who bought the Taste-O-Matic and those that did not buy it also differed on desire to improve your sense of taste, just to begin with. So we can't tell if the different results were due to the predictor variable or to this pre-existing difference between the groups. We have identified a third variable that could account for the relationship between the other variables, all while accepting the relationship originally reported as evidence. The other place to look for a third variable is to ask, were the groups treated the same in all ways except for the level of the predictor variable? This might sound complicated, but all we want to know is if the groups were treated exactly the same, except for one group got the treatment and one didn't. To do this, we should consider the experiences of the participants and name specific ways that their experiences might have been different. Think about how closely the group's experiences matched each other. What differences can you think of between the ongoing experiences of the group using the taste-o-matic and the other group? Well, for one thing, they are using the taste-o-matic. That means that they are thinking about how things taste and are spending time and effort on tasting. Could the difference be due to the time spent thinking about taste? Could it be due to a belief that the taste-o-matic will work, called a placebo effect? Maybe the taste-o-matic comes with different recipe suggestions that introduce new and unusual foods. We have just identified a vast array of possible third variables. Now that you know where to look for third variables, let's make sure we know the rules about what makes a good third variable. Third variable explanations suggest that a completely different variable can account for the relationship between the predictor and the outcome. Be sure to generate a specific and plausible third variable that is either a pre-existing difference or a difference in the group's experiences. Be sure to name the third variable. Just saying that it was something else is not clear enough to be an effective alternative explanation. It is also vitally important that you name a different variable and do not just support the original claim. For example, saying the taste-o-matic increases the taste of the food and that increases the sensation of taste is supporting the original claim by suggesting the mechanism through which it works and is not suggesting an alternative explanation. Key to a third variable explanation is being able to account for both the predictor and outcome variables. Another class of alternative explanations is that the cause and effect were switched. This explanation claims that while two variables are related, they are related in the opposite way as given in the original claim. For instance, someone might discover that people who use ecstasy also have holes in their brains. They might claim then that using ecstasy gives you holes in your brain. A valid alternative explanation would be to reverse those variables. Perhaps people who have holes in their brains are more likely to use ecstasy. When proposing an alternative explanation, you have to accept the relationship as reliable and give another reason why this relationship exists. If you're able to do this, you'll be an expert at proposing alternative explanations.